Is Sony A7C Mark II or Sony A7CR a good choice for passionate photographers or for working photographers? Let's find out if those brand new cameras from Sony are a good choice at the current rumored prices. Let's talk about this now. Hi there, Tudor Matescu here. In this video, I want to address the elephant in the room. Is Sony A7C Mark II or Sony A7CR a good choice at the current rumored prices for a passionate photographer or for a working photographers, having in mind the improvements and what the new features will these two cameras bring to the market. We will look a little at the important specs, just a few specs. We'll look at alternatives and I will show you my conclusions compared to other cameras that are on the market and also compared to Sony A7C. So let's find out which camera is thrilling me. But before, please give it a like to this video. So let's talk first about improvements that matters. I will look on the screen a little so we are able to see that Sony A7C, it will bring 33 megapixels, AI features, better AF than A7 IV, and a flippy screen like Sony A7C, the normal flippy screen that I'm starting to like, and I will tell you immediately why. I don't see any rumors regarding the EVF, so we have a problem here. Also, we are able to see on the rumor site that we will have a front dial, yay. Also, this dial, it's not marked, so it will be a custom dial, and we have some improvements. Also, I don't know about the weight. The camera is looking a little bit chunky compared to the old Sony A7C, but again, it's looking great. I think there are some big improvements here, and we'll have more buttons and wheels that we will be able to customize. Anyway, as a Sony A7C user, I'm okay with the Sony A7C Ergonomics. Yes, I have wished a little more buttons, at least one button, but I'm able to do it. If I have a lens with a custom button, I'm okay. But when I want to use manual focusing lenses like this Jupiter old lens f1.5, I really have to wish to have a second dedicated button for focus magnifying, so I'll not have to change between buttons and settings when I'm changing from a manual focusing lens to an AF lens. But if you are using just AF lenses or lenses that are connected with chips to the Sony camera, you don't feel the need for the second button. Next, let's talk about Sony A7C, because Sony A7C is the camera that it thrills me. Why? Because I think there Sony will bring a true upgrade to the Sony A7C camera. So for me, Sony A7CR is the camera to go, but we'll look at the rumor prices because again it seems a little expensive for what it will offer, but also we will look at other options and we'll see if the price is justified, the rumored price. So Sony A7CR, it will be a 61 megapixel camera, and I like that, but not too much, because I'm wishing a system to have smaller RAW files like Leica implemented on Leica M11. So I'm okay with a big resolution. It's okay, it's fun to have that big resolution, but you don't want to use that big resolution every time. It will make your computer work hard, it will eat hard disk space, and it will make you not want to shoot some scenes because you'll say, okay, maybe this is not a good picture, I will not shoot it because I'll have to process the file, I will have to take the raw file on my iPhone, on my computer, and so on, and it will be a little cumbersome. It's fun to have, and it's a good thing to have a big resolution, but you don't always want to use the biggest resolution. So I hope Sony will bring an option to have compressed RAW files or smaller JPEGs, I don't know. So I'm liking again the resolution, but I would have wanted an implementation like Leica M11. But let's now talk about the big improvement. Why Sony A7CR is making me very interested? Because it has an 4D screen. So it has the screen from Sony A7R5. So this means no more flippy screen, but you have the flippy screen if you like flippy screens, but also this means you'll have a tilt screen. So a tilt screen is a huge deal for photography. I'm liking at events to use the flippy screen, but not all the time. I'm liking to use the flippy screen for portraits like this. Okay, it's fun, it's usable, and yes, it's working. And for portraits with a long lens, like an 85mm f1.4 lens, it's a great option. But for landscape shots, I don't like the flippy screen. I'm hating it. I'm hating to use the flippy screen like this. Also, the EVF, it's not very good, and yes, a tilt screen. Give me a tilt screen. So, a rangefinder with a tilt screen. This is the main idea. A rangefinder with a tilt screen. A rangefinder design with a tilt screen. And where we have this kind of design? On Fujifilm X100V. So, big deal, big competitor here, a rangefinder with a tilt screen, and also we have a rangefinder with a tilt screen on Leica Q3. Look at Leica Q3, we have here a tilt screen, a rangefinder with a tilt screen. So this is a huge deal, this is a very huge deal. And Sony A7CR will bring this to the table. So for me, it will be a direct competitor to Leica Q3. And now, if we got all this out of the way, let's talk about the prices. So the rumored price is between $2,000 and $2,300, and Sony A7CR is rumored to be around $3,000 and $3,800. So let's look now at the current prices for Sony A7 IV, so Sony A7C Mark II Mini, and Sony A7R5. So for Sony A7 IV, we have $2,500 price. So my guess it will be that Sony A7C Mark II will be under this price for sure, and Sony A7CR will be under the price of Sony 7R5. So under $3,898. This means we'll have a pricey camera, but it's a full frame camera. And if we look at Fujifilm X-T5, we are able to see that Fujifilm X-T5 is selling at $1,700, and Leica Q3 with a lens, with a fixed lens, around $6,000. So from this point of view, you are able to see that the prices of Sony A7C Mark II and of Sony A7CR are in the range of the market prices. Of course, I'm not okay with the prices because we have to pay money to get these cameras, but let's see which camera does it deserve the price from my point of view. So let's talk about as a passionate photographer and as a working photographer. I would like to invite you to subscribe to my newsletter for someone who is passionate about photography. There you will receive tips and tricks and POVs and lots of information about photography if you are passionate and if you want to learn more about my photography from me. Now, as a passionate photographer, we have three options. We have the old Sony A7C Mark I. We have the Sony A7C Mark II and Sony 7CR. So, which one to choose? It really depends on your budget. The biggest improvements of these new cameras is not the AF, it's not the resolution, it's the tilt screen. So finally, we have a rangefinder looking design camera with a tilt screen. So this, for me, it is the biggest selling point. I've got accustomed with this screen. I'm liking to use it, and it's fun and it's very retro in using this camera. It's really comparing to my X Pro 3 camera because it's harder to chimp with a flip screen. It's harder than with X Pro 3. So this was one of my biggest findings, and probably I will do a comparison between Sony A7C and X Pro 3. So please subscribe to my channel to see that comparison. But it's harder to chimp. So if you are a AVF shooter and if you don't want to chimp and if you want a retro looking camera and you want to use that camera with manual focusing lenses, old or new, like the Voigtlanders. Then my opinion is that as a passionate photographer, you can go with Sony A7C if Sony A7C Mark II is out of your budget, or go with Sony A7C Mark II. But if you want to use the tilt screen, then the only option that will not make you, I have wanted a tilt screen, in that situation is to get Sony A7CR. This is the biggest selling point for me, that tilt screen, because this means you'll be able to use that camera in any situation. So being vlogging, being photography, being portrait photography, being street photography, low angle shots, down angle shots, and all kinds of shots. The screen is the biggest selling point. And now we are getting to the working photographers. So somebody will be able to ask me, why recommend a camera that has one SD card for a working photographer? I know working photographers that are preferring to use Sony A7C instead of Sony A7 Mark IV or Sony 7R5 and so on. Why? Because it is small, it's looking stylish, it's like Fujifilm, it's like a Leica. Yes, it's a Sony, but it's there, it's giving you mojo. It's fun to use, it's easy on your shoulder, and it's giving you mojo. So you can always use smaller cards and change the cards, and there aren't any real world problems in losing photos because you are using an SD card. But yes, if this backup option is very important for you as a working photographer, then this is not for you. But if you are just starting out, or if you just have some clients and it's important for you to be passionate about your work, because without passion you can't go forward, then I feel that Sony A7C can be a good choice for a working photographer. And from these two cameras, for a working photographer, I don't recommend Sony A7CR. Why? Because you really need to have good gear for post-processing those big files. So if you don't have an ultra good computer to post-process your files, the best choice, it will be Sony A7C Mark II. And also, it's a discussion, and we'll need to see how the AF of Sony 7R will compare to the AF of Sony A7C Mark II. So for the working photographer, I really do recommend get Sony A7C Mark II, or again, you can use the old Sony A7C, because I don't find any problems to this camera. So you'll get a good camera, but I don't feel it's necessary to upgrade. You upgrade just because you want to upgrade, but again, Sony A7C, again, a very powerful and good camera that can deliver without problems. And by the way, if you are a working photographer that has a business or wants to start a business, I have 5 essential tools that you need to use in your business. So if you want, you can subscribe for free to my business newsletter, and I will send you tips and tricks for starting a business and showing you what tools and software I'm using to raise my own business and to earn from photography and videography. So check that link that is in the comments and in the description. Let's talk now about the alternatives. What alternatives do you have for Sony A7C, for Sony A7C Mark II and Sony A7CR? They must name it easier. So the real alternatives from my point of view are Sony A7C, of course, how I've said, it's a very good camera. You can go with the biggest camera, so Sony A7C Mark IV and Sony 7R5, but again, it doesn't have any sense. You want a Sony A7C because of the small factor. And looking at small factors, we have some alternatives. You can go on an APS-C, where you have some ergonomics, or you can go with a Leica, but look at this price. So these are some alternatives, but one of the best alternatives, but is not yet on the market, it's Nikon ZF. So Nikon ZF, it's the real alternative to the Sony A7C Mark II or Sony A7CR. Yes, you don't have a tilt screen, but you have a retro looking camera with some good and small and compact lenses from Nikon. Probably you will not have the AF of Sony, of course, but you'll have the Nikon colors and the Nikon micro contrast that again it has something to it. So Nikon ZF, it's the camera as an alternative, but I will not use Nikon ZF as a professional or as a working photographer. I feel it is more towards the passionate photographers. You have here some constraints and yes, of course you can use it. Let's be serious, all these cameras are very good. So in conclusion, it's up to you what you choose. Any camera, being full frame camera at this moment, it is very good. So indifferently of your choosing, you will not go wrong. You will be able to use any of these full frame camera or latest APS-C cameras that are bigger for the moment than a full frame camera. You'll be able to use them in professional work, so working paid jobs or for passion. All these cameras are very good, but the camera that really thrills me, it is Sony A7CR. Yes, because of the screen. I feel it is the only competitor to a Leica. Retro looking, enough buttons, tilt screen, and I want to hear about that EVF. So if Sony will do a great job with the EVF, pairing Sony A7CR with Voigtlander lenses or with Samyang lenses or with Sony lenses, all these lenses are great. You have aperture rings on Sigmas, on Sony lenses and so on. You'll have a rangefinder camera with a tilt screen, a flip screen. Come on, it's crazy. It's all that you could want from a camera. So this is why I feel the price, it's justified. And if you have the budget, I think you will not regret Sony A7RC. So let's wait to see, and please give me your comments and your impressions about these new cameras from Sony. Also, subscribe to my channel and check my affiliate links to see the gear that I'm using and the services and software that I'm using to raise my channel and to raise my business. And after this video, please check the next video. Click here.